It all began on a bright summer morning, when a 19-year-old named Daniel boarded a small private boat with 4 of his friends. They were supposed to be heading out for a week-long adventure trip across the ocean, hopping between tropical islands. Daniel had always been adventurous, filled with a spirit of curiosity that sometimes bordered on reckless. His friends often joked that he had the heart of an explorer, even though he had never been farther than a city park before. The trip was supposed to be fun, filled with laughter, games, and the joy of youth. But the sea is unpredictable, and adventure sometimes comes at a price. On the 3rd day of their journey, the skies darkened. Heavy winds and giant waves appeared out of nowhere. A storm unlike any they had ever seen swallowed the boat whole. The mast cracked, sails tore apart, and within minutes, their boat was at the mercy of the raging ocean. Daniel remembered the screaming, the chaos, the thunder, and the lightning splitting the sky in half. One by one, his friends were swept away by the waves. He tried to hold on, but the boat capsized, tossing him into the cold, merciless water. Hours passed, he wasn't sure how long. When the storm finally calmed, Daniel found himself clinging to a piece of broken wood, his lips cracked, his body weak, and his heart pounding with fear. When he opened his eyes again, he was lying on a sandy beach. His throat burned from swallowing seawater. His body ached everywhere. The sun was rising above the horizon, casting a golden light on what seemed to be a deserted island. There were no houses, no people, no signs of civilization, just thick jungle behind him and the endless sea in front. Daniel realized with horror that he was utterly alone. The first few days were pure panic. He screamed for help, lit fires with dry branches, and ran along the shore, hoping to see a ship pass by. But no one came. His only companions were the sound of crashing waves and the cries of seagulls. Hunger soon clawed at him, forcing him to search for food. At first, he survived on coconuts that fell from palm trees, drinking the sweet water and eating the soft flesh. But coconuts alone could not sustain him. He had to learn, quickly, how to fish, how to climb, and how to protect himself. Building shelter became his next challenge. With no tools, Daniel had to rely on sharp rocks and broken sticks. It took days of cuts, bruises, and endless frustration before he finally managed to build a small hut using palm leaves, vines, and bamboo-like stalks from the jungle. It wasn't perfect, but it shielded him from rain and burning sun. At night, when the jungle came alive with strange noises, hissing, growling, rustling, he would sit in his hut, terrified, clutching a sharpened stick for protection. The loneliness was worse than the hunger. With no one to talk to, Daniel began speaking aloud to himself, sometimes imagining his friends were still with him. He carved a calendar into the trunk of a tree, scratching one line for every passing day, desperate to keep track of time. Weeks turned into months, and months slowly melted into years. By his 2nd year, Daniel had transformed from a scared, skinny teenager into a hardened survivor. His body grew lean, his skin darkened under the sun, and his hands turned rough from constant labor. He learned how to set traps for small animals, how to dig for roots, and how to spear fish in the shallow waters. He discovered which berries were poisonous and which could keep him alive. He even learned to make fire by rubbing sticks together, a skill that felt almost magical the first time he saw flames dance before his eyes. But survival was not just about food and shelter, it was about the will to live. And sometimes, Daniel felt that will slipping away. He would sit on the edge of the beach, staring at the horizon, wondering if it was worth it. 9 years was a long time to be alone, and there were countless moments when he almost gave up. But every time despair took over, something inside him whispered, "Hold on. Someone will come. Don't quit now." He found ways to keep his mind busy. He carved wooden figures from driftwood, painted shells with berry juice, and built little rafts that the waves always carried away. He created routines, waking at sunrise, fishing at noon, building and repairing his shelter in the afternoon, and praying at night. Prayer became his lifeline. Even when he wasn't sure if anyone was listening, speaking into the silence gave him comfort. One of the greatest challenges he faced came during his 4th year, when a violent storm hit the island. The winds tore apart his hut, trees fell like dominoes, and the ocean swallowed half of the beach. For 3 days, Daniel huddled inside a cave he had once discovered, clutching his knees, listening to the terrifying roar outside. When the storm finally passed, he walked out to find his home destroyed, his food stores washed away, and the island looking like a battlefield. He cried that day, more than he ever had before. But then, he started rebuilding. Piece by piece, branch by branch, he refused to surrender. Wild animals also tested his strength. Wild boars roamed the jungle, and once, a giant snake slithered into his hut at night. Daniel fought it with a burning torch, his heart racing so fast he thought it might explode. After that, he reinforced his shelter with rocks and dug trenches around it to keep unwanted creatures away. Years blurred together, but his hope never completely died. Every time he saw a ship pass far in the distance, he would light a fire on the beach, waving his arms, screaming at the top of his lungs. None of them saw him. The disappointment cut deep, but it also fueled his determination to be ready, always ready, if the chance ever came again. Then, after 9 long years, that chance finally came. Daniel had almost stopped believing it would ever happen. He was 28 now, unrecognizable from the boy who had once set sail. His beard was long, his hair wild, his body strong like an athlete. One morning, as he walked along the beach, he spotted something different on the horizon. A ship. Not just a dot, not just a shadow, but a real ship coming closer. His heart raced. He sprinted to his fire pit, hands trembling, and lit the dried wood he had prepared the night before. Smoke rose into the sky, thick and dark. He waved a large branch, shouting until his voice cracked. For hours, he feared they would pass him by like all the others. But then, he saw it. The ship slowed down. A small boat was lowered into the water, and men rowed toward him. Daniel fell to his knees, tears pouring down his face. After 9 years of isolation, his nightmare was finally over. When the rescuers reached him, they were stunned. They asked how long he had been there, and when he told them, they could hardly believe it. When he returned to civilization, Daniel struggled at first. The noise, the lights, the crowds of people, it all felt overwhelming. But he was also celebrated as a symbol of human resilience, the man who had survived nearly a decade on a deserted island with nothing but his will to live. Looking back, Daniel often said that the island both broke him and rebuilt him. It took away his youth, his friends, and 9 years of his life. But it also taught him the value of strength, patience, and hope. The island taught me that as long as you don't give up, he said, you are never truly defeated.